Hey guys, I'm Kendra.
Hi, I'm Mercedes. This week we're talking about a coming of age romance with a secret ingredient, Mystic Pizza.
But of course, as always, we have to kick it off with our celebrity crush of the week. Mercedes, who you crushing on this week?
Okay, so like most of the world, I feel like I binged Summer I Turned Pretty, and then
Mm.
I reread the books because I had only ever read the first one as a teen, and now I read all of them in a day, and they're emotional. They're just like that good teen escape. So my crush is I guess the actor that plays Conrad, but more Conrad just, like, the character, and more, honestly, book 3 Conrad, like, so I'll say Christopher Briney, who plays Conrad in the show, but also just Conrad in book 3.
Okay, so as someone who has only watched the show, I am 110% Team Jeremiah. I think he's adorable, and I also think too, he was just a bit more stable with Belly than
Yeah.
Conrad was all over the place. I was like, dude, someone throw this kid into therapy, regardless of if you know what's wrong with him or not. Like, there's clearly something wrong with him. And if he doesn't want to talk to
Mhm.
you, send him to someone who he will talk to because he was just all over the place that summer, and it was
He
nauseating to watch.
he was dealing with a lot and did not have the tools to properly communicate, but he's also so young. People are comparing the actor to, like, a young Leonardo DiCaprio and, like, a young Sean Hunter.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And also comparing him to my favorite era of Harry Styles, which is frat boy Harry. So, of course, this boy's up my alley.
It's up your alley. You know who's up my alley?
Tell me.
Um, okay. So, I don't know if people will know him, but he is technically famous. So, he is his name is James Smith. He's a famous British personal trainer, which is like so weird. I'm like, I don't know.
Niche.
But yeah, super niche. But I love him because he has a really fresh perspective when it comes to working out.
Ooh,
Like, he's far more relatable than other personal trainers. He does this thing on his TikTok where he actually roasts other personal trainers, saying that their advice is like, he'll basically watch a video of a personal trainer being like, "This is all you have to do to get a body in 3 days." And then he'll be like, "No, you're annoying and you're an asshole." Like, no, like and he'll,
good
like,
for him.
yeah, and they'll talk about, like, why their advice is bad and, like, to not shame other people for what they wanna eat and, like, how their bodies are and things like that. I've just honestly never seen a personal trainer like that.
Yeah, that's shocking.
It is very shocking, and he's, like, super fit too, like, he fit both, like, physically, but also fit like he's cute,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
it's just, like, really nice to hear his type of perspective in this age because I just feel like we're super hyper focused on working out and looking a certain way, and he's fine as hell, and that accent, I'm here for it. Like, James, hit me up.
Yes.
Perfect. Guys, we're gonna move over to TLDR. We like to summarize a movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. We were talking about Mystic Pizza this week, and if you haven't seen it, you can buy it on Amazon or, pirate it.
Yeah.
So, in the small town of Mystic, Connecticut, three women are trying to navigate life and love. You have Kat, played by Annabeth Gish, who recently got accepted to the incredibly prestigious Yale University and now needs to save money for it. Daisy, played by Julia Roberts, who is the most beautiful girl in town and is determined to land herself a rich man. And of course, you have JoJo, played by Lily Taylor, who can't decide what she wants when it comes to marrying her longtime beau, Bill, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. What do these three women have in common? They work at a popular pizza joint in town, Mystic Pizza. One night, the three of them go out where Daisy savagely beats the rich and handsome Charlie in a game of pool, only for him to leave with another girl. Thankfully, he hunts Daisy down the next day and takes her out to dinner, and the two start hanging out. In order to earn more money for college, Kat starts part time babysitting for a family in town for the summer, Tim and his young daughter, Phoebe. The two bond over everything like astronomy, Beethoven, famous authors, and before you know it, feelings start to get involved. Meanwhile, Jojo and Bill are also hanging out even though Jojo called off their wedding, but Bill is still determined to marry her, which is really sweet. The three women have a lot to learn and love, whether it's Kat realizing that a relationship with a married man isn't feasible, especially when his wife comes back early from a work trip. Daisy realizing that class and your economic standing in society has a lot to do with love and if a relationship can last, or Daisy or Jojo, who slowly but surely realizes Bill is the one for her. There's so much the three of them don't know, including what famous ingredient Leona puts in the pizza to make everyone swoon. But in this movie, we watch them figure it out and just enjoy the journey they're all on. So this is a 1988 film written by so many people, literally. Amy Holden Jones, Perry Housey, Randy Housey, and Alfred Ury. Between the four of them, they've also written the Beethoven movies and Driving Miss Daisy. And it's the directorial debut of Donald Petrie, who later went on to direct classics like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and Miss Congeniality.
Yes.
Tell me some industry facts, Mercedes. What you got?
Oh my goodness. So this whole movie came about because Amy Jones, one of the writers, had a summer home near the area. And after visiting the pizza place, she was so inspired that she wrote the whole screenplay focused around this place and this pizza place. I love it.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting? So Roger Ebert, who I love and have tattooed forever,
Yes.
he accurately predicted that this movie would someday become known for the stars in it before they became stars. Like he just knew.
Genius.
Yeah,
That man.
I appreciate him so much. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, everything, like, he was so right.
All the time. He never missed.
Okay, and I don't know if you knew, so this is based on the real Mystic Pizza restaurant, but they actually didn't use the real one for filming because it was just too small. So after the movie came out and it was popular and tourism started spiking in the area, the actual pizza place renovated it to match the whole set built by the movie so that tourists could like come and like have the full experience. And now they have it playing 24/7 in the restaurant.
The movie playing 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
imagine working there. I would
never
be
worked
s
there.
I would be
Yeah.
like, "I stop, turn it
I
off."
worked at American Eagle for 2 summers in a row, and they have the same playlist that they would play over and over, and I only
Oh
worked
my
4-hour
god.
shifts because I was, like, part-time because I was still underage. It was the
Yeah.
worst thing ever. Even, like, when it's a different song, just, like, listening to it all freaking day is the most annoying.
Working retail, I once worked a summer at a year-round Christmas shop. I the music in there, I was like,
Oh,
"I need to
no.
leave. I am going crazy."
Mercedes, bless your soul. Bless your soul. I don't know how you did that. So, during Julia Roberts' audition, she was actually told that she was completely wrong for the part, so she went home and dyed her hair black, and it somehow worked. So when she went back in for, like, her callbacks or second audition, she noticed that all the actresses were sitting and, like, intensely studying their lines. Instead, she put on her Walkman, because we had Walkmans at that time, and started singing loudly to stand out to the casting director. I was like, "Genius." I'd also if I was one of those other actresses, I would've been so annoyed. I'm like, "I'm trying to study, can you shut up?"
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, excuse me."
Exactly.
But
I
also her hair, I'm gonna be talking about her hair this whole episode.
Mhm.
It's my everything to me.
Yeah?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's so great, it is so great.
There is another star in this movie that I don't know if you noticed. Matt Damon made his on-screen debut in this movie. He is Charles' younger brother at the dinner that he takes Daisy to with his family that kind of just goes crazy by the end. And I didn't realize it was him until I watched this time. And I'm watching with my brothers and I was like, hang on, that's Matt Damon.
Yeah, I did notice actually the second that he came on screen, I was like, "Is that baby Matt Damon?" Like, I paused it and I was like, "That is him." Like, I can spot
Yeah.
him and Ben Affleck, I
Oh,
can
you
spot them
love
pretty
him.
well.
Yeah, you love
I
those Boston
I
boys.
do. I do love my Boston boys, yes, it is a crime. I love them so much. Guys, we're gonna move over to Time Capsule Mercedes, and I just like to recall where we were when the movie came out, and I feel like our last 3 episodes, my answer has always been like, "I was on my couch," because, again, I watched this for the first time this week, and I had never even heard of this movie until you guys suggested we do it for an episode. I'd never heard of it.
I
I
mean, it makes sense. Julia Roberts has said before that because of the success of Pretty Woman, people didn't really watch her like early good movies like that came out a couple years before because this came out 2 years before Pretty Woman, and
Mm,
then like Steel Magnolias came out in between those. So a lot of those go under the radar compared to obviously like Pretty Woman and then her bigger rom-coms.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
Yeah.
I would say if we were to do, like, another Julia Roberts rom-com, I don't even think, like, if I had to make a list, I don't even think this would be on the list. I wouldn't think that anyways. Like, there's so many other she's been in.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I didn't watch this until recently too. In the last few years, I think like at the beginning of like lockdown is when I first watched this, which is shocking because Julia Roberts is my favorite. I call her my second mom because I
Mm,
just like grew up watching all of her movies with my mom.
yeah.
And like I said, her hair in this movie is perfect. I just need to get that, like, wavy hair method down and then the volume, and I think I could do it because like, I usually just, like, run a brush through my hair and then it's like the waves are gone. But I feel like I could do it if I put my mind to it.
There is a curl product commercial that comes on every 6 seconds when I'm watching TV. I will actually pay attention this time and send it to you because, like, their whole thing is, like, taking their hair from, like, I don't know, to, like, these voluminous curls, and it looks awesome. So I'm gonna send it to you. You can
I
do
have
it,
all the
Mercedes.
products, I'm just so lazy that I don't wanna, like, deal with my wet hair that I'm like, "I'll just leave it."
Yeah. Well, one day you'll have to come on camera, and then I'll see your hairline.
Yes,
It'll be really
I'll do
cool.
it.
Um Okay, so I feel like this is another movie where neither of us were born, but,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay, so we obviously weren't born even close to 1988,
Mhm.
so I really wanna know because 'cause we've talked a lot about, like, the Brat Pack boys
Mm.
and, like, all of our, like, favorite '80s, like, teen movie like, what's another '80s movie star that you love that's, like, really solidified themselves as, like, an '80s person for you?
Um, Honestly, Robin Williams. I feel like
Ooh.
he like the '80s was kind of his breakthrough decade with Mork and Mindy and then Dead Poet Society, which was such a sad movie, and I still have a hard time revisiting it to this
Oh,
day.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, but, like, he was so I remember I've watched so many interviews of people working with him on Mork and Mindy. He was just out of this world natural. Like, no one
Yeah,
has ever come across an actor like him before. I don't think we'll ever come across an actor like him again. He just his improv and his timing and, like, all of the things that he did to prepare, like, he was just of a different breed.
yeah,
He really was. And so I feel like that when I think of the '80s, I think of like, oh my gosh, that's the beginning of Robin Williams. Like we weren't even ready. We didn't even know because we hadn't even seen like Good Will Hunting. We hadn't even seen like for me Jumanji, right? Like there were so many
yeah.
things that so many staples in his career that he did that we weren't even ready for when he came on the scene in the '80s. But I'm curious for you too. Like same question. Who did you have like another famous movie star?
So I was thinking about this, and I have so many, but one that I was like, I thought would be like under the radar is Lou Diamond Phillips, because he really came into like he became a star at this time. Like if you think like La Bamba came out around this time, Stand and Deliver came out, like all these movies that I love and like grew up watching, and I was like, oh my gosh, like no one talks about Lou Diamond Phillips, and then he just like shows up, and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen you in so much stuff.
I don't
You've
know.
never seen him?
I don't know those. You know what's so funny, Mercedes, is like I would almost like listening to this podcast. I would almost think you are the one who went to film school and study the history of all film, as opposed to me, because I feel like there's so many movies you talk about that I don't know about.
You
I
would
don't.
if you saw a picture of him, I think,
Yeah.
like, as, like, young him in the '80s, you would totally recognize him.
Okay. Was he like the heartthrob in these
N
movies, or?
I mean, in like I mean, not really, like, I don't know how to explain it, he's just like, he has a face that I'm just like, "Yeah, I thought everyone knew him," but I think he played a lot of, like, indigenous roles and Latino roles, so I think that's why even though he is Filipino, so he is another Filipino who had to play a bunch of, like, Latinx roles, but I always just, like, think of him when I think of those, like those movies aren't as popular, obviously, but
Mhm.
for
Lou
how I
Lou
grew up.
Lou Diamond Phillips. That's his name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you're a fan, let us know what your favorite movie by Lou Diamond Phillips is, and also let us know any other '80s movie stars that you like outside of the Brat Pack.
Yeah.
It is time for the Rom-Com Hall of Fame! But of course, Mercedes, as always, we have to roast this movie. It's from 1988, so I feel like there's quite a few to roast.
Oh my gosh, there is. We have a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
So, my first one is just Kat's storyline. It's so
Yes.
painful. I
Mhm.
wanted to scream at that guy to just, like, get away from her. It's so gross, and I know he's a hot dad. I get it. I understand. But, like, just married older men need to leave and just, like, stay away from these teen girls. Like, take care of your own child without the help of this naive girl. She's so young. It's just, ugh, like, like, right when she walks in, you, like, know where the story's headed, and you're like, "Oh god, no." And, like, I don't know if you're watching Love Island UK, I know you're not a big reality TV person, but there's a 19-year-old this season that I'm just every time a guy goes up to her, I'm like, "Stay away from her. Like, get away."
Oh my gosh.
That's what
I
this reminded me of.
It's so funny because I kept going back to the IMDb page of Mystic Pizza and, like,
Yeah.
reading the description because it says 3 teenage girls. I was like, "Wait, she's a teenager, right?" So the whole like, when that
Yeah.
energy kinda started to be introduced into the scene, I was like, "Wait, no, she's a teenager. No, she's a teen this isn't
Mhm.
gonna happen. She's a teenager." And then I remembered it was 1988. But I saw this really interesting TikTok recently that was like, good friends will never let a 30-year-old date an 18-year-old. We hear so much that age is just a number, and she gave this example. This girl was 22, and she was like, "I have a bunch of 18-year-olds sleeping on my couch right now. Here's a picture of them." And it's just like this log L-shaped couch, and they're just passed on this couch. She was like, "They had a sleepover with my little brother who's 18. My parents gave them pizza, and they camped outside in the backyard, and then they passed on the couch." And she was like, "I also know a 30-year-old. My mentor is a 30-year-old who has her PhD, 2 children, she's married, living in a house, and you cannot tell me that she is on the same maturity level as these, like, 3 18-year-olds passed on my
No,
couch."
absolutely not.
She was saying, like, there's 12 years of knowledge there between the 2, right? So in that 12 years, you learn how to be an autonomous person, you learn, like, about taxes and how to navigate life and how to make discernible decisions and how to and learning new skills. You can't tell me that with that 12 years of maturity that you're supposed to have as a 30-year-old, that you
Mhm.
would then look at an 18-year-old and be like, "You know what? I think we're on the same wavelength." Like, no. And
Yeah.
if you do think that, like, your friends have the right to completely roast you.
Totally. It's honestly so embarrassing. And like when you're younger, there's this whole like perceived notion of like, oh, they think I'm mature, they think I'm whatever. But it's like, no, there's a reason this man can't or won't date someone his own age,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And oh gosh, it's just so gross. I hate these people that and also like 18, it's just like a fake rule. It doesn't mean anything about adulthood.
Yeah.
That is a child.
A light does like, a switch does not go off the second
No,
you turn 18. Like,
no.
when I was 18, I still thought very much like a 17-year-old, right? When I was
When
19,
I
I
was
still thought
21, I still thought like
yeah,
a 17-year-old.
exactly,
Like,
and I feel like the
ugh,
people making this argument are primarily men too, who are like, "I could
yeah.
date whoever I want." It's always because I saw this Reddit post where a guy was like, "You guys are stupid for thinking that a 36-year-old could not date a 22-year-old, like, that's fine." And I'm like, "No, it really
No.
isn't." It
No,
really
it's
and
not.
if you are an emotionally stable person, you would not think that's okay either, and
Yeah.
going off
I'm
on a
20 I'm 26 and I wouldn't even touch a man younger than 24, I don't think.
yeah, exact I feel that way too, I'm like, I'm 30, like, I feel like 28 maybe, but I would prefer, like, a 35-year-old, honestly.
Exactly. Like 2 years younger is like my limit. And then
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you.
Exactly. Speaking of emotionally unstable, that's actually one of my roasts for this movie because I actually think Daisy is a bit emotionally unstable, and
Yeah.
Charlie just, like, goes with it. Like, I feel like that's part of pretty privilege, which we were talking about in our previous episode of 500 Days
Yeah.
of Summer. It's like, when you are beautiful, you can get away with doing things like throwing a bunch of dead fish on your boyfriend's car. Like, anyone else would have gone to jail, like, the police would have been called, that's
Mhm.
property damage. Like, it's just crazy. And I just feel like it reminded me of this Reddit story of this high schooler just breaking up with his girlfriend, and she completely destroyed his car. And it's like a little it's like it's concerning when you are that young and that emotionally unstable because I feel like you just grow up to become even more emotionally unstable, and it's just
Yeah.
not a good recipe. It's just not it's not a good look.
Yeah, I think I don't know, tell me if you agree with this. I think like a few years ago, there was this like internet trend of like being crazy, of like the joke of being crazy. And I don't know if there was just like this subconscious like reclaiming of it so that like shitty guys couldn't call you crazy.
Oh.
So I don't know what it was, but like I heard so many girls like in undergrad be like, well, I'm crazy, I'm psycho. And I'm like, I don't think you are, and I don't think that should be, like, an excuse for, like, behavior from anyone's side,
Yeah.
and I also don't wanna describe myself that way.
I don't think that's something you should be proud of. That's a very weird thing to try to
But they
reclaim.
also weren't, like, that's the thing, like, I was like, "Why are you claiming this when you're, like, very normal?"
Yeah. That's so weird.
Yeah.
What's the other roast you got for me?
Oh my gosh. So obviously, like the rude classist remarks from Charles' whole family. All of these 80s coming of age movies have this theme of class. And that uncomfortable dinner definitely emphasizes just like the class discrimination between Daisy and Charles. And like they just made so many off the cuff comments. And then he like really pushed it forward too. Like he was definitely at fault for like egging them on. Cause she says after, she's like, they were being themselves, which isn't like great, but at least they
Can't
were being
expect less.
honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel like too, one problem that we talk about a lot that I don't necessarily have with an issue with this movie, but just in it with rom-coms in general, is how accepting everyone is of creepy behavior by seemingly attractive men, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like the reverse of these. So when you are a beautiful woman, you have the excuse to be crazy. When you're an attractive man, you have the excuse to be creepy. And it's just the fact that Charlie shows up at Daisy's house unannounced. She never gave him her address or phone number. They barely said 2 words to each other when they were playing pool. Like, if you watch back the scene, like, they don't really talk all that much. Yet
Yeah,
he
they just
tracks
make eye contact.
yeah, he literally tracks her down, is waiting for her in her living room when she comes up.
Yeah.
That's freaking weird, Mercedes. That's weird.
I know. I didn't know if that was, like, an '80s thing. You
I
know what I mean? Because 'Cause
know.
I'm like, okay, like, obviously, this guy couldn't, like, hit you up on, like, slide into your DMs or anything on Instagram, so, I was just like, "Is this was that the only way? Was that normal?" So, I don't know. I'd have to ask someone who was dating in the '80s.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do completely agree with you. There's always, like I mean, I make it a joke with my friends. It's like, the only difference between, like, creepy and hot is if you're, like if you like the guy.
Mhm. Yep, exactly, 100%.
Yeah. My last roast is just like JoJo and Bill stressed me out so
Mhm.
much. It makes me sad that they ended up married because, okay, he's hot, but at what cost? Because, like, she clearly didn't want to lose out on her independence. And the whole nympho boat naming thing really rubbed me the wrong way. I would have totally dumped him.
Really? I
And
thought this
when
was
they're when they I was like, "No, not for me, not for me." And when they were hooking up at her house and he's saying no and she still continues, I'm shouting at the TV being like, "Stop." Like, this is a whole other conversation about consent. Like,
Mm,
please, like, this isn't like a funny scene. It
yeah,
was funny when he's, like, running out and the parents catch them, but, like, before that, I'm like, "Please stop, he said no."
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Harvey Weinstein produced this movie.
Dude,
I
oh
I feel
god,
like
yeah.
when we're talking about Joe and Bill, so one of my favorite quotes is when Joe says, "Gosh, you know something? I get really turned on just looking at his wrists."
So relatable, so
I
relatable.
don't get that. You're gonna have to explain that to me, Mercedes. I don't
Oh,
get that.
really?
I'm calf muscles. For me, I'm calf. If you are like wearing shorts and I can see your calf muscles and they're like defined, that's the biggest turn on for me.
I like backs and shoulders, but, like, I totally get it. It's, like, those little minute things,
Hmm.
that you're just like, when you really like a guy and you're just like, "Oh my god," and you just, like, notice little details, you're just like, "Wow."
What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is not a specific quote, but really, like, the whole scene where Daisy dumps the fish barrels into Charles's car, and she thinks he lied to her, but he's like, "Yeah, but you gave it 100% effort," after she's like, "I messed up." And I just thought that was funny because 'cause I'm just
Mhm.
like, I was so surprised that, like, they weren't just in this, like, screaming match at the end,
Yeah.
but like you said, there's definitely a reason for it because
Yeah.
I expected it to go very differently.
They excuse a lot. Um, I have a second favorite one. I'm curious, what you would think of this quote. So, I also really like Bill's line when he says, "I'm telling you, Joe, that I love you. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I think when people love each other, they should make a commitment. They should have a wedding in a church with the blessings of God, for Christ's sakes." And I just feel like, if I'm being completely honest and vulnerable right now, I
Yeah.
have just been really, really struggling in my singleness lately. Um, I just feel like so tired of being single and going through life completely by myself that I would kill to have someone say those words to me. I just feel so ready to settle down and to have a family and to be a wife and to be a mother. And I honestly just want nothing more. It's funny because I was talking to my friend yesterday who just had a baby, and she's like one of my last friends to have kids. And I told her that I'm leaving for Bali next week. And she was like, "Oh, I wanna be you." And I'm sitting there thinking like, "No, I wanna be you." Like, if I could have, like, a husband and a child, like, she literally just had a baby who's, like, gonna be a month old. I was like, "I will
God.
gladly cancel my trip to Bali if it meant I could have those things." I just feel like this year has just been really hard for me, turning 30 and just having absolutely no signs of, like, a relationship pending.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I kind of just gravitated more towards Bill, the character in this, because I'm just like, "You are the type of guy that I want." You know?
I do really like him. Um, yeah, I think that's such a good point to bring up, like, when you're talking to friends who are in such a different area of life than you, that you're, like, craving, and I don't know, like, that envy can come up there where you're just like, "Wow, like, you have what I want." But then on the other side, your friend's looking at you being like, "You have what I want." Like, I would
Yeah.
kill to do that right now. So I think that's really good when you're, like, feeling in those low moments to really put it into perspective and be like, "Look at everything I'm doing."
Yeah.
And really celebrate that because, like, it's true, like, you would not be doing that if you were in, like, family mode right now.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think it's, like, one of those things that's kind of hard to put into perspective or to even be grateful for because, like,
Yeah.
I kind of equate it, like, if you always have, like, Honey Nut Cheerios in your pantry and your friend, like, can never find it in stores and you just have, like, all these boxes, it's hard for you to, like, appreciate, like, "Oh, yeah, I have all the I have this
Yeah,
thing,
because
I've
it's your
always had this
norm.
thing."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your norm, exactly. So I feel like for me, traveling is my norm, it's hard, and I just think people don't understand how much friendships really change when you are the single one and everyone else is, like, married,
Yeah.
because I have a friend, I would go to her husband's birthday party every single year, and this is their first year that they're, like, married, and I wasn't invited to his birthday party this year because it was, like, a couples thing, right? Or, like,
Weird.
your friends start having kids and, like, you can't get dinner after work anymore because they have to put the
Mhm.
kids down for bed, and it's just, like, I knew that my friendships were gonna change, I just thought I was going to change with them, I didn't realize I would be that one that was still over here, like, "Hey guys, let's do something." They're like, "Oh, sorry, my husband, my kids, my whatever," kind of thing. So, all of that to say is it's just hard. But with that being said, Mercedes, would you swipe left on this movie or would you swipe right?
I'm swiping right. I love seeing the different perspectives and experience from each of these leads. This is really a coming of age friendship story among 3 women with romance mixed into it, and I love that. I know we both love good friendships between women and, like, seeing that portrayed because it's just so important to see, and I think this movie got it right. These characters go through such different experiences, but they're all learning and navigating these different times together, and it's, like, such a specific time of that early adulthood, and it feels so authentic in its portrayal and so honest in the way that it's showing these girls, and it just feels like this movie shows respect to young women
Mhm.
and also the depth to their experiences too. Like, these aren't surface level things. You're understanding their feelings and you're getting to see that, but you're also understanding, like, why they do certain things. And yeah, like, obviously this movie put Julia Roberts on the map. The year after, I said she did Steel Magnolias, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Another great movie about friendships between women,
Mhm.
and it's so special. And then in 1990, 2 years later, she did Pretty Woman. So obviously, like, this was a major time for her. So I'm forever grateful for this movie.
I appreciate your perspective. I am unfortunately going to be swiping left on this one. I feel like I don't say that a ton. I just feel like personally it didn't do it for me. I struggled to even write the TLDR at the beginning of this episode because I was like, I felt like it was a whole lot of nothing happening. While I appreciate the friendships between the women in terms of like, things that I could pinpoint in the story that happened, there were very few
Yeah.
and far between. I love Lily Taylor during this time, like, she was also in our Say Anything
Yes.
episode, and I just, like, she's so great, she's so beautiful, I love the sound of her voice, like, she has kind of, like, this
I was just about to say I want her to do animation
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I love
yeah.
her voice.
Yeah, she has, like, this rasp to her voice that's, like, so soothing, and I love
Yeah.
it. And it's cool to see Julia Roberts and Matt Damon in some of their first things, but I just feel like I didn't really get anything out of this movie. I wanted more, and I think that was one of
Yeah.
the reasons why, 1, I had never heard this movie, and 2, I had never had, like, an inkling to watch it, but I'm gonna be swiping left, please don't hate me, I'm so sorry.
I respect your opinion.
Thank you, Mercedes. You're the best. All right, guys, it's time for couples therapy. Mercedes and I just like to give advice to the couples in the film on how they can improve their relationship. Hit me.
Okay, so these girls are so young and learning about life. So I'm going to preface that with that, like, that's their main focus, like, they just need to, like, learn more about themselves. Kat needs to go to college and never talk to that hot dad ever again. He is trash. I hate him, and I just wanna give her a hug when she's crying after. Oh my god, it breaks my heart.
Mhm.
And Daisy needs to leave Mystic, at least for a little while. I think she has way more going for her than she believes. When she's on the dock with Jojo and Kat, she says a thing where she's like, "All I have is this," and, like, points to her face, and then, like and then she's like, "And this," and then, like, points to the beers in her hand,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "No, you have so much more, and you're capable of so much," so I just wanna see her flourish in a different space and really recognize her own potential.
Mhm.
And then Jojo, I just hope she can keep her independence throughout her marriage like she wishes, and I hope she gets to know the secret ingredient in that pizza, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with everything that you said. I feel like Kat is going to meet so many people in college, and I
Yeah,
just
she'll
hope
thrive.
she will thrive, but I also hope that she's able to not compare every guy she meets to Tim. I just feel like older men kinda have that effect on younger women, and I feel like it completely throws off their accuracy chart when it comes to what constitutes a good man, is they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, he made me feel this way." It's like, "No, well, he was manipulating you." Like, that's not.
Exactly. Yeah, he was grooming you.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just, terrible. I feel like Daisy is really pretty, but I do hope she picks up a hobby or starts to lean into more things that make her more of a well-rounded person rather than relying on her looks because she does have a lot to offer, like, she could have
Yeah,
so much more, and I feel like, like what you said about, JoJo and Bill. Like, I just feel like the only reason I wouldn't have wanted JoJo and Bill to get married is because JoJo clearly has some growing up to do and needs therapy. The fact that she lied
totally.
about breaking up with Bill when he's the one who broke up with her, and just like that just screams red flags. Like how she took control over, oh well, I broke up with him. Like
And
that's
he cried, yeah. Oh my god.
exactly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I watched that clip again on YouTube later, and I was looking at the comments, and one of the comments just goes, "Actually, she lied, and he didn't cry." And I was like, "Yes, thank you." Like, thank you, obvious.
Yeah.
We all watched it.
Like, it just shows that she doesn't know how to handle rejection or process her
Yeah.
emotions, and I worry about her being in a marriage, like,
Mhm.
with that, so it's very hard, but I don't know. What do you think their love languages are?
I think JoJo's physical touch, Kat is quality time, and Daisy is acts of service. Daisy I was a little mixed up on, but I
Mm.
think acts of service makes sense.
It's interesting. I almost wonder if the writers did that on purpose to kind of show to differentiate the 3 women
Yeah.
in the movie, if they, like, gave them kind of these different love languages to show that how they process love and how they experience love in a different way. I wanna say
Totally.
with Daisy, I don't know why, I just feel like her love language at some point in her life will be gifts because she was like, "I want a rich man, and I want this," and she, like, went and bought this nice dress and, like, that he drove a Porsche and stuff, so I feel
Mhm.
like she will become materialistic if she doesn't, do the work to become a more well-rounded person, but alright, Mercedes, I gotta ask you, do any of these couples last in 5 years?
No, oh, I mean, I hope not, but I mean, JoJo
Mhm,
and Bill did get married, so I'll say yes for them.
mhm,
Daisy and Charles are a no. Once he goes back to law school, I think it's gonna be over.
yeah,
They're all so young. I don't want any of these relationships to last.
mhm,
I'm just like, "You're babies.
yeah.
Like, just hang out as friends."
Yeah. See, I kinda feel like it's a no all around, including JoJo and Bill,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Like, Mystic is such a small place. I have
Mhm.
personally I'm not trying to, offend anyone, but I have personally never understood people who think they found the one, but have never left their small towns. Like,
I, completely agree.
yeah, and I feel like we talked about this before, like, I know when I meet my person, they're going to be the one because I've traveled this whole wide world, meeting crazy amounts of people along the way, and I
Yeah.
know myself and I know what I'm looking for. And so when they come into my life and be like, "You're it," like, I'm gonna point to them immediately, and I don't get how people do that when they've never left their small hometown. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never understood it either. I also just, like, would want I don't know, the guy I'm with to be, like I don't know, I'd wanna learn about him. I don't want him to just, like, know everything I know and, like, understand
Yeah.
all my, like, references and stories,
Mhm.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, you want your worldview to be expanded. I think it's so beautiful being able to learn how to see the world through someone else's eyes. But if you come
Mhm.
from the exact same place, you know the same people, went to the same schools, you have the same experience, you went to the same like small burger joint on the weekends, like what
Yeah, your
perspective,
world
like,
is so small.
your world is so small, exactly, and I think that's how we get closed-minded people. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
throw it out there. Alright, guys, it's time for Heartthrob. Mercedes and I would like to talk about who we would bring home to introduce to our friends and family, and, I'm curious, Mercedes, who you bringing home with you?
Yes. So I first and foremost would want to be friends with all three of these girls. I think they're great and they would be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But Bill, Vincent, how do you say his name? Donofrio?
D'Onofrio? I guess that's how I say
Donofrio.
it. I don't know if
Okay.
that's right.
He
That's how I
is
say
a
it.
hunk. He's
Yes.
a young guy. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like I
Mhm.
said, I totally understand what JoJo says when she says she loves his wrist. Like, relatable. I get it. He is like a man. Like, when I saw him, I was like, this is giving me like Luke Dane's Gilmore Girls vibe.
Yeah. No, he's so fine. He is so fine. Like, yeah, Bill for sure. A man who wants to commit and is emotionally unavailable, come through, Lord. Come on. Yes. Yes, to all of that. We are going to play Mary Smooch Ghost. We have Bill, Charles, and Tim Mercedes. Who are you marrying? Who are you smooching? And who are you ghosting?
This is an easy one. I'm
Okay.
marrying Bill, I'm smooching Charles, and I'm ghosting Tim, and I'm putting him in jail.
Hmm. I agree. I agree, but then I also, to play devil's advocate, we're both marrying Bill. I just, with Charles, I feel like the reason I would ghost Charles is because of his family. Like I
But
like
you're just gonna kiss him. You're just like, this is nothing. This is just temporary. This
Okay.
is just a
Okay.
fun night out.
Okay, you convince me. You convince me. I will smooch Charles and I will ghost Tim. You convince me. Thank you, Mercedes. You always
Yes,
put me on the right track. You always straighten me out.
I got you. I got you.
All right, guys, before we wrap it up, we always love to bring in a pop culture moment. And I just read, actually, that Julia Roberts is about to start a new rom-com movie with George Clooney called Ticket to Paradise.
Oh my
And listeners, I have a question for you. If you want us to do an episode on it when it comes out, drop a comment. Let us know.
yes. Oh my god, we have to. I'm
We
so
have to.
excited.
That's gonna be so good.
So I don't know if you saw, but in 2007, there was a 30 Rock plotline about a Mystic Pizza musical adaptation. And then in 2019, it was announced that they were actually adapting it to a stage musical, and it premiered in Maine in fall 2021.
Did anyone go and see it?
It was in Maine, so people in Maine. But I just thought it was funny that like it was a storyline on 30
Mhm.
Rock and then it actually became real.
That's funny. They probably got inspired by 30 Rock. I mean, I'm always inspired by 30
Who
Rock.
hasn't? Yeah.
Listeners, let us know your thoughts. Do you like Mystic Pizza? What do you think about one of Julia Roberts' breakthrough roles? How do you feel about JoJo and Bill? Slide into our DMs at Me Cute. Again, I'm Kendra. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ken10Hollywood.
Yes, and I'm Mercedes. You can find me at MercedesGV11 on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And if you're looking for new rom-coms, follow Meet Cute wherever you listen to podcasts and follow Meet Cute on socials everywhere. Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.